Welcome. Tonight, we turn to a story that echoes through centuries, not only for its drama, but for its calm faith in the middle of fear. It's a story that has been told to children and remembered by kings. But beneath the familiar images of lions and caves and prayers whispered through the night, lies something deeper. A story of integrity, of quiet strength, of unshakable peace in a world that bends and breaks under pressure. This is the story of Daniel in the lion's den, Daniel 6. And as you listen, may you be reminded, no matter how dark the place, no matter how loud the enemies, no matter how close the danger, you are not alone. So breathe deep now. Let go of what clings, and come into this ancient story of light in the middle of the pit. The city of Babylon had changed rulers, but Daniel remained. Now in his 80s, the man who had once been taken from Jerusalem as a youth still stood strong in the royal courts. Not because of ambition, but because of integrity. Under King Darius, Daniel had risen to the highest ranks. Of the 120 satraps, regional governors, 3 administrators were placed above them. And among the 3, Daniel distinguished himself so much that the king planned to set him over the entire kingdom. This didn't go unnoticed. The other officials saw it, felt it, and hated it. They searched for something, anything, to discredit him. Some hidden corruption, a secret bribe, a flaw in his governance. But they found nothing. Daniel was trustworthy. No negligence, no compromise, no scandal. And so, the satraps and administrators came to a conclusion, one rooted in jealousy and spite. We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God. They couldn't break him through worldly means. So they turned to his faith. The officials gathered together and went to King Darius. They bowed low, spoke with flattery. "May King Darius live forever," they began. And then, with smooth voices, they laid their trap. "We have all agreed," they said, though Daniel had not been consulted, that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. It was bold. And it played to pride. For 30 days, no worship but to Darius himself. No prayers except to the king. A law written in stone. Now, your majesty, they continued, issue the decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. Darius nodded. Perhaps he didn't see their motive. Or perhaps the flattery clouded his judgment. He signed the decree. And the law was sealed. The trap had been set. The ink had barely dried on the decree before word reached Daniel. He heard it. He understood it. He knew what it meant. And still, he did not flinch. He returned to his upper room. The windows faced Jerusalem, the city of his youth, the place his heart still longed for. It was there, facing the ruins of a city far away, that Daniel knelt down, just as he always had. 3 times a day. Morning. Midday. Evening. Not in secret. Not in protest. But in faith. Just as he had always done. He prayed. He gave thanks. He laid his heart bare before the God who had walked with him through every regime, every test, every year of exile. And as he prayed, the satraps were waiting. They watched. They listened. And then, when they had the proof they needed, they rushed back to the king. They came to Darius with urgency in their voices. "Did you not publish a decree," they asked, "that during the next 30 days anyone who prays to any god or human being except to you, your majesty, would be thrown into the lion's den?" Darius answered without hesitation. "The decree stands. In accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed." And then they said it. The name Darius respected. The man he trusted. Daniel. He pays no attention to you, your majesty, or to the decree you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day. And suddenly, Darius realized what had happened. The words hung in the air like ash. He had been tricked. The law was never about loyalty. It was a weapon. And Daniel was the target. Darius was distressed. He didn't respond with anger, but with sorrow. All day, he tried to save Daniel. He looked for a loophole. A clause. A way out. But there was none. The law could not be undone. And as the sun began to set, the officials gathered again. They reminded the king of the unbreakable law. He had no choice. And with a heavy heart, Darius gave the order. Daniel was brought before the king. There was no struggle. No plea. Only calm. Darius looked at him, eyes full of regret, and said the words that came from somewhere deeper than duty. May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. Daniel didn't answer. But something in his face, peaceful, steady, said all it needed to say. The soldiers rolled the stone aside, lowered Daniel into the den. A hollow, dark place. Silent until the lion stirred. Then the stone was rolled back over the entrance. And the king, once noble, now grieving, sealed it with his signet ring and the rings of his nobles. It was done. The sentence carried out. The silence complete. That night, silence ruled 2 places. The stone-cold lion's den. And the lavish bedroom of a sleepless king. Darius returned to his palace. The servants prepared food, but he waved it away. No music. No company. No comfort. He couldn't eat. Couldn't speak. Couldn't even pace the marble floors. His heart was too heavy. He had signed the decree. He had sealed the stone. And now, the one man he trusted most was in a pit, possibly devoured. The night stretched on. Hours felt like days. The moon passed overhead. And Darius, royal and powerful, was now helpless. There was nothing he could do. Only wait. Only hope. Only pray to a God he barely knew, the God of Daniel. And in the lion's den? There, too, was silence. But not of death. The lions, fierce and ravenous, stood still. Their mouths closed. Their breath heavy. But no harm came to Daniel. The man of prayer did not tremble. Did not run. He simply sat in the center of beasts, untouched. Protected. Held. Because the God who had shut the mouths of lions stood guard beside him. As the first light stretched across the city, Darius was already dressed. He rushed from his chambers. Down the palace steps. Across the courtyard. To the pit. He called out to the guards, "Roll the stone away." And then, with a voice caught between fear and desperate hope, he shouted into the darkness. "Daniel! Servant of the living God," he cried, "has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" There was a pause. 1 breath. 2. Then, a voice rose up. Clear. Alive. Calm. May the king live forever. Darius staggered back. It was Daniel. Alive. Unharmed. "My God sent his angel," Daniel said, "and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." Darius couldn't believe what he heard, but it was real. The miracle had happened. The God of Daniel had answered. The king gave the order at once. "Lower ropes. Bring Daniel up." And so the man who had entered the night with lions now rose into the light of morning, whole. Not a scratch. not a bruise, not a torn cloth. The jaws of beasts had stood open all night, but they never touched him, because God had closed them. Darius was not a man known for humility, but as he watched Daniel rise from the pit, untouched, unharmed, glowing with the quiet assurance of faith, something inside him shifted. This was not just a survivor. This was a testimony. This was proof. Darius turned his attention to those who had plotted Daniel's downfall. And justice came swiftly. But more than that, the king issued a decree. A proclamation not just to his court or his city, but to the entire kingdom. "May you prosper greatly," he wrote. "I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel." And then came the declaration, more powerful than any political command. "For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." It was not just a decree. It was a confession from the mouth of a king who had seen the miracle for himself. Daniel continued to prosper. His influence remained. But he never chased power. He didn't ask for favors. He didn't try to rise, and yet he rose, because character always does. He lived long, served faithfully, and prayed, always prayed. Morning, midday, evening. Whether in palace or pit, Daniel never changed. Because he knew that his God never changed either. Perhaps that's why this story matters so deeply, even now. Because we all face lions, in one form or another. We all know what it means to be trapped in something we didn't choose. To feel sealed in. To lie in darkness and wonder if we'll ever rise again. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there tonight. Let Daniel's story remind you. You are not alone in the pit. The one who shut the mouths of lions still stands guard today. So as we close, take a breath. Let this story settle into your spirit. Let it remind you that your peace does not depend on the quietness of your surroundings, but on the presence of a God who is nearer than fear, stronger than lions, and faithful in every moment. Like Daniel, you are seen. You are heard. You are held. Sleep now, not in anxiety, but in assurance. You don't need to pace the floors. You don't need to fight the dark. Your God is already in it with you. And in the morning, you'll rise again.